success.
And so much to talk about. It's not this rugby union show. It's that rugby union show, and welcome back.
Hey everyone, welcome back to That Rugby Union Show. And what a week it's been in rugby terms, particularly in Springbok terms as well. There was a lot of criticism after that first test against the Italians, and I think a little bit of concern as well. The Boks managed to bounce back. Not that they needed to bounce back because they already had a positive result. It really is sort of cutting edge stuff, and that's what the theme for today is. I think cutting edge pretty much encapsulates what they've all been about. They've tried a couple of things as well. And I'm pretty sure between Sim, myself, and our guest tonight, we'll touch on them and maybe wonder what to expect, not necessarily just from Georgia this coming weekend, but obviously what's going to come from the Boks in the Rugby Championship. And it looks like Rassie is trying a couple of things out. But what a pleasure to have not just Sim back, but our guest for tonight, Springbok fullback Conrad Jantjes, who's also a TV man these days, which is wonderful. And that journey started for him, I think, a couple of years ago. But Sim, that last match?
How's it, X? Geez, I was actually lucky enough to go see that game in Kaveja, and you sit and you wait for kickoff. I mean, it's the atmosphere is already electric, and you sit and you wait for kickoff, and then kickoff goes, and it's this weird little kick so that the center can take it, so that the Italians can come and scrum. And you're like, yeah, it's going to be one of those tests, isn't it? And you're sitting there, and suddenly by the end of the game, you're looking at sort of two innovations that one borrowed from a high school team, which just goes to show that genius is not only the purview of the high and mighty. They will steal from anywhere. Those guys will steal from anywhere. So it was a very interesting game to be in, and I thought actually an underestimated game in terms of the Boks, simply because if you look at the frustrations of the Loftus test, and then you look at how they had to play without one man down for about an hour of that game, and at one stage they were down to 13 men, still didn't concede and scored more points and one more try than they did at Loftus. So it was one of those games where you come in and you don't know what to expect, and you walk away with so much more to talk about.
Yeah, no, certainly were some bold innovations that we saw there. And the way they were able to navigate that, it seemed to give them a lift as well. And you kind of feel like the guys who were left on the field after the red card were playing for pretty much more than just the win. They, I think, had to prove to their coach what they're all about. Well, talking about Springbok fullbacks, we saw one get a century this past weekend. But were it not for, I think, injury, Conrad Jantjes, my man, we were cheated of a good couple of years of Connie rugby. But what a pleasure it is to have you join us. I know you're just off the golf course as well. And Sim and I were debating just before this. I wonder how good Conrad is at golf. It's probably a scratch. What's your handicap?
I don't actually. First of all, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, bruh.
Some, I usually only used to see you at a post-match press conference. No, you know what? It's I'm pretty happy with the way things happened and the way things ended. And yeah, sure. The problem is, as a rugby player, you think you can play forever. And when I had my broken leg, which kept me out for 11, 13 months, whatever it is, it was long. It was long. I don't care. It's just long. You kind of reevaluate things and you realize that as much as rugby is a big part of your life, it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, no, there's definitely more to it than that. And, you know, you speak about the end of your career, but you also had to bide your time. So that speaks to longevity in a different way as well. You know, you played in a time where being a player of color meant that you probably had to box quite a fair bit above your weight at the time. And eventually that opportunity came. I don't know how much it meant for you at the time.
You know what? It was. I was having a discussion about this in the week, and I started when I was 20 years old. Some was there for most of, if not the whole journey, and the issues I had with Laurie Mains, and that was my first professional coach. It's a laugh in Medza now, but back then, but it was difficult. I was 20 years old. I was coming into the setup. I was playing with guys that had won the 1995 World Cup.
Yeah.
And back then, that old saying rang true. What do they say? Children should be seen and not heard. And that's just my philosophy going into my first year of Currie Cup, was that you just have to do your time. You have to listen, pick up all the experience you can. I had an awesome mentor in Chester Williams, kind of took me under his wing. And as much as Chester wasn't politically involved, Chester always said the right things. He kind of knew, he was my roommate as well, where we would sit and have late night chats, and he'd tell me what it was like just coming through the system for him, and what I could experience and what I could expect. So it was a difficult time, because there was a point when I didn't want to play Super Rugby. Some help me out here. I don't even know what it was back then. Super 12 or 14, wherever we were, we're talking 2000 now.
Yeah, sure.
And
12.
Yeah, it was 12. It was a difficult time, because I was, and how everything played out was I'd had an injury pre-season. I pulled a hammy, and by the time I come back, the Super Rugby season was in full flow, and I knew I wasn't going to be playing under Laurie because of what had happened the year before, my first Currie Cup year in 2000, when he basically asked me to fake an injury. I had to fake an injury so that he could get a white player onto the field, and so the next year I kind of knew I'm bombed. That's it. I'm not going to be played under this man. But, I came back and I remember rocking up to the hotel and I was like, let's check your coach. Am I on the bench? What am I playing the weekend or whatever? And he said, oh no, well done. You're on the bench. You'll be on the bench. And I was like, well, I don't actually want to be on the bench, because I've just come back from an injury and I'd much rather get game time at was it the Vodacom Cup back then? So I'd much rather go back to the Lions and play Vodacom Cup, because there's no way in hell you're going to put me on the field. And then, everything cut loose in the parking lot. And I ended up lunchtime sitting in Mr. Prinsloo's office, the then CEO of the Lions.
Johan Prinsloo, yeah.
And he just kind of let me know. No, good man, taught me a lot of things. And then, he kind of let me know that if I refused to play for the Cats, that I would probably be banned from all rugby, club rugby, whatever. I wouldn't be allowed near a rugby field. And that was because a couple of years before that had the same issue with Henny LaRue, where Henny also refused to play Super Rugby. And they just banned him from everything. So Mr. Prinsloo was like very diplomatic, and he sat me down. I'm 20 years old. And he said, listen, this is how we're going to have to do it. Go back to the Cats. You have to be there. So I checked that to Mark's Park, and I get to training, and I made it very clear to Laurie and the coaching staff I didn't want to be there. And I was even training on my own. And on the weekend, I was on the bench, and guess what? I didn't go on. I didn't play at all. So I kind of knew that was going to happen. And then, but the evening I get home, and I've got a message on my phone from Rian Oberholzer, who was version 1 CEO of SA Rugby. And we had an open and honest discussion, and he kind of let me know that, listen, it's time for you to represent all those guys that are coming through the system now. So we're talking your Wayne Julies, Bola Conradis, your Sean Plakeys, all those guys that I played under 19s with, Barry McDonald, A.D. Jacobs.
Yeah.
And somewhere there comes a point where they have to push the black players. Because in all honesty, we weren't getting a fair chance. So that kind of changed my mindset when you put it that way. And like, well, somebody's got to be the guinea pig, if you want to call it that.
Sure. That's a lot of pressure, bro.
Funny. Interesting you mentioned Laurie Mains because, one other player he was best mates with, in inverted commas, was one Rassie Erasmus at the Cats. So I'm very curious. Did you play with Rassie?
I did. Rassie was my captain at the Cats. So I'd come in 2000. I came into the Currie Cup setup at the Lions, and Rassie was there. And then he was still at the Free State 2000, but in the Cats, the combined team and that. And 2001, he started off as my ex-captain. Then, well, I don't know, I'm sure you guys remember the little speech he had in Australia when he got sent home. He also had his issues with Laurie. So, I've been, Rassie, I've been around Rassie for a while.
What was that like, though? I mean, did you see Dr. Rassie coming to the fore? I mean, obviously, there's playing with that kind of player who tried all kinds of things as a player, carried his own analysis kit. I think he did that line out sort of interception of a penalty kick. I think it was against the Crusaders. Obviously he had all these things, but like, did you see the guy you know of today back then?
Yes, I did. And even as a youngster, I thought it was the norm. I think I was lucky in that sense. That year was a senior player, a Springbok. I saw the extra work he was doing off the field in terms of analysis and just studying the game, learning more about the game, studying the opposition, not just the general play, but the individual that you're going to be up against. I saw all of that, and he'd come to you at training and he'd say, listen, let's try this and that on the weekend, because he obviously saw something. So he wouldn't mention it in a team video session or that. So I think there was a point when he felt like he didn't want to look like he's trying to take over in a sense. So he still wanted the coaches to coach, but he'd come to you on the field, on the training field, and just say, listen, let's look at this and that. And he'd work out specific moves or things with individuals in his team. Okay, so first up, straight off the bat, I'm really glad that he took international rugby, took the Springboks all the way back to under 14 level. And to me, that's a massive positive, because I think the higher you go, people expect everything to change and the game to be something different. But sometimes as a player, the best you can do is go back to what you learned at school. It's still the same thing. It's still the same game. You got to put the ball down behind the try line. You know what's a penalty. You know all those things. It's just the pressure that changes, the number of people watching you. So I'm really glad you went back to under 14s. In terms of the lineouts, let's start with a kickoff, because I'm not sure how to go about the kickoff, In a way, I can understand things went wrong the first test against Italy. And as the Boks, we've always been proud of our set pieces. Scrums, lineouts, we always dominate. We always look for 100% over there. The more I thought about it, I kind of feel for the Italians also, where the coach said, he felt it was a bit disrespectful. I can see why, because what are you trying to achieve by that? In my mind, I'm thinking if I kick deep and it's a good kick on the 5 meter, on the 22 meter line, and they try to play from there, I got opportunity to get into the game. All those big boys, those fatties in front of me, they lined up. They got white knuckle fever. They're about to smash into these Italians. And plan B, things you think go really bad. All they're going to do is kick the ball out in their half still, on the halfway line, if at best, or on their 10-meter line. So I'm still going to be in an attacking position. And then you kind of, I mean, maybe Mani could have kicked it just a little bit further so it doesn't look that obvious, And we could have forced the rep to say, oh, well, 12, you were in front of the ball and come back for a scrum. Okay, but it was pretty blatant, and I'm not sure about it. It's all about setting the tone, and then it didn't go according to plan. And like you said, I don't see them doing that against, especially with a kickoff. I don't see them doing that against Ireland, the All Blacks, or even the Aussies.
Yeah, I must say, I mean, I kind of agree with you on the kickoff. I feel like a kickoff is a simple thing. That tactic is not a new tactic. It's a tactic used in France by teams with strong scrums. So what they do is they kick out on the full, so that they kick out on the full, so you can come back to a scrum, and it's been done forever. And a big Sorry, it's the same like back in the day when the Bulls had Buckies and Victor as their lock pairing. The chances of you stealing their ball is slim. You gotta just hope that you get your ball. So the tactic you then employed is you don't want to kick out. So I would get the ball at the back, and if I have to kick, I'd go straight down the middle of the field. And everybody would go, oh, he missed his touch again, and I didn't find touch. But that is what we want to do. We can't compete against them. We got to give them that respect. I just felt that there was a more elegant way to do it, which was to kick the ball out on the full, and you still get your scrum, and you haven't embarrassed anyone. And I think the reason Gonzalo Quesada was so sort of like miffed about it was because he played the vast majority of his career in France. So he recognized the tactic, even though it wasn't executed, the same way. So he kind of like, he read what the message was. And the message was, we think you guys have a weak scrum and we want to bring you, here. And when you look at the rest of the other stuff, obviously the line out in the middle of, in second or third phase or whatever it was, I think that will come out some stage.
So the one thing about Rassie's innovation, Cody, that I was thinking when I was watching that second Italy test is they were trying so many things. And, speaking about the under 14s, and it almost felt as though they were throwing everything that they could, almost as a distraction. It was sort of saying to the rest of the rugby world, look over here, don't take a look at what we're doing over there. It was interesting. But was there any value in what they did necessarily? I mean, setting up a midfield maul, we've seen that in the World Cup final 2019. So value there because you could win a penalty. But other than that, didn't really need to do all of the stuff, did he?
I think we'll probably. I don't think he'll throw away the forwards up and under in the midfielder is what I call that little line out session over there. I think he'll put it in his back pocket and he'll keep it there. But sometimes one has to think that with Rassie, it's like, I'm not saying he's feeling the pressure, no, not at all. But it's like the world expects him to do something, so he has to come up with something new, just to keep that innovation alive. But I think things will change going into the Rugby Championships. Look, what do we really take from Italy and Georgia? It's a team that's finished sixth in the Six Nations. They scored 10 tries out of 5 games. They don't have a great strike rate, so. If you don't beat them convincing, people say you were bad. If you beat them convincingly and you try all these things, and people say, only Italy. So it's kind of you stuck there. You're not quite sure how to go about it.
So,
Sim-
so guys, here's the thing for me. I mean, you talk about value. Listen, there were 2 tries in that, eh? 2 tries from those
Yeah,
mauls.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
14 points. That's the first thing. So that is value in terms of the game itself.
That's
But
why I was
think-
trying to be nice. I was trying to be nice and say, we won't throw it away. We're going to put it in the back pocket.
The pockets, yeah.
yeah, and I 100% agree with Connie, because they will keep it for when somebody, like if you go into Rugby Championship now, everyone's kind of like expecting it and trying to work out a way to do it. They could come out in, I don't know, it could come out in a really tense game against the All Blacks, in the last 5 minutes or whatever, when they least expect it. That's what's going to happen with it. But for me, actually, ironically, the greatest innovation that we probably didn't talk as much about was one which started, against the Barbarians, which was this whole and experiment. Because in the end, at first you were again sitting there and going, Jesus, Rassie just trying to get utility players for the sake of getting utility players, or turning players into hybrids for the sake of doing it. And then suddenly you're down to 14 men, and you actually can have a weird situation where on attack you can scrum with 8 men, with that hybrid player. And in defense, your backline can be full with the same guy playing at inside center. So I thought, actually, while you look at the rest of the innovations, it didn't really, it's exactly what you were saying, X. Well, is it going to change your world type vibes? Is any of it new, really copied from Bourus? And obviously it used to happen in French rugby. But actually, the bigger thing for me was the fact that the one thing that really helped them be able to cut out a team with one player more than them for a full hour was the fact that they'd worked in an experiment to turn an outsized center into a hybrid player. So that's kind of, for me, that was the value.
Yeah, no, I know he said, Connie, he said after the match that Andre saved us after the red card. So obviously he sees value in it. And just the last one before you chip in here, Conrad. We've seen forwards trying to be converted into backs from, whether it was PS Peace, everybody wanted the next John Olomu, but seemingly the other way around has some merit, some value. And it's not the first time we've seen him pack down on the side of the scrum, Andre.
Yeah, so I fully agree with what you were saying there, and it takes me back to when Rassie was at the Stormers. Everybody sees Andre Esterhuizen now on the side of the scrum, but we tried the same thing with a very dear friend of mine, the late Nick Costa, where Nick moved from loose forward, 8-man, to the wing. And that just started out as an experiment, but he was doing so well on the wing that we decided to keep him there. And if need be, would go back to a loose forward, And I always used to tell Nick, I said, Nick, you got no number on your back. Just because you run out in the number 14 jersey doesn't mean you have to play there. Don't play your natural game. If you want to, go play as a fourth Lucy. I don't really care, but So once again, it's nothing new that I see from Rassie.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Achiva Daimani also got people talking about, his adaptability and whether he should play out wide for the Stormers as well. Somebody with pace like that is very, very valuable. Hey guys, if you like what you see and you want to support the show, we want you to be part of that Rugby Union Show family. Then just hit the like button, subscribe to the show, tell your friends, make sure you join us every time we're on. Slap that bell harder than Rassie finds loopholes in World Rugby's rulebook. There are new episodes every week. Don't miss it.
Dovo, I'm keen to know your thoughts about the Andre Esterhuizen and the experiment. I'm going to ask you about that. Yes, like it threw us for a loop. I'm very interested in what a coach sees in terms of what the potential planning is. As this Rassie's just got this weird gift, man.
No. Look, so Sim, you know as much as I do on this one. Where I think where you do get this back forward, and we played with it, or you get the scrum half who can genuinely play in another position. You won't remember him, Godlin Masimba in our case. You actually get a 9-man bench. And that is the clever bit, that you know that if you get a double injury, so let's say he's gone 6-2 and you get a double injury, well he's got the choice. So it's about 5-3, 6-2. You got and you do get an extra injury at the forward, the guy can move in, or you've got a Kwacha can't, we know that, play international rugby in the wing, but it's like, for example, then that guy goes on the wing and you've got 3 backs if one of the forwards can play on the wing. So that gives you the extra, where I think it is clever, and I'll tell you where my reservation, he cannot be the primary forward reserve. If you cannot be a 5-3 with him as the loose forward, because in that 3rd minute injury, your lineout's going to go to the thing, your maul defense is going to go, your maul's going to go. If you're going to use them in the last 20 or 15 minutes, when that game, just by nature, and you can look at the GPS stuff, is spread out from touchline to touchline, and you've got, then the number on the jersey is largely irrelevant. You've got that ability of a guy, an offload carry, can do a close carry off 9, can carry in a wide channel, make an offload. That's an extraordinary asset, but he cannot be the primary one. But I just think it gives you, in essence, you've got 9 reserves, but he can't do it early. And I would say the missing piece, which I don't know if they're going to get to given his weight, is he's not strapped for jumping, and that's a challenge, because even I think Dion Fourie once put strapping on, but that looked too ridiculous. But if you've got that and him and a Kwacha can jump, but I think that would be the piece, is that he can be trained to be an option to go up in the line out, and some of his mauling skills. That's probably the pieces that's missing. But I've got no doubt it's about that spread out game that you see in the last 10 or 15 minutes. Look, I think it's very clever in terms of giving your bench versatility, because that's your big nerves. You go 6-2 and one goes down, and then you're in trouble. The other back's got to sit, So if he's on the bench as a forward reserve, as the 6th forward, you've actually got 3 backs on the bench. But it probably is training it forward is the way to go,
We're quickly going to move on, not just from this experiment, but also the value of what Rassie might get from this weekend's coming match against Georgia. I know everybody's going to write off Georgia. It's not an important match, but for me, Sim, that change Visa in at 8th man is one to note. And considering the value of Andre Esterhuizen as one of those players, those hybrid players, and seeing another lock on the field, is that perhaps part of the bigger picture?
So when I saw that change, you lose Jasper Visa to a ban, and then you kind of I'm thinking of Rassie looking for a like for like, replacement, and then he goes, you know what? Nothing can be closer in terms of like for like than someone who shares the DNA with him. Let me get his brother, you know what I mean? It was insane, It's like, I just looked at it, I was like, come on, that's been taking this whole like for like, a bit too far. But I think if I've noticed something with the Boks, it's they've thrown a lot of back ball in the first 3 matches that they've played, which obviously, as Connie will tell you, they're trying to exploit the vacuum at the back of the line out. And so I think by putting someone like Cobus Visa there, who is these days a lock, I know he started out as a Lucy, and a lot of people have actually forgotten that. But I think what he's trying to do is trying to make sure that he's got a lock there. If you've got a lock, you've got more sort of chance of control in terms of making sure that ball doesn't go haywire, because back ball is always the most dangerous to throw anyway for the attacking team, because things might go haywire. Obviously it's the longest from the hooker and whatnot. So I think that's what they trying to have a look at, just going, you know what? If you put a lock there at number 8, do you have control over that, and then are able to exploit, the vacuum pretty much the same way that Kurtley Arendse did for his try against Italy in the first test at Loftus.
And also we know he's got a lot of locks available to him, just in terms of player stock. And I know Jean Plan got injured, and he wouldn't have liked that, but Lud de Jager is back. And all of a sudden you look at it, and it's bringing in Visa, Cobus, another lock. And all of these guys are very good. I know Salman Murat seems to have a couple of detractors, but I think he puts himself about as good as anybody. Is that maybe part of the greater picture rather than what we saw with the midfield mauls and whatever, and that stuff that you'll put in your back pocket?
Yeah, you know what? You know what's X? I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say that Rassie's trying to bamboozle us all over here. I got a feeling that he's wanting Australia, New Zealand, Argentina, even the French, because we know we're bowling up to that French test in Paris in November. And he wants everybody to focus on the forward line-out play in midfield, the kickoff. He wants people talking about everything else except what he's really trying to do. That's just my feeling. I'm just going out on a hunch over here. If you want to talk about the lot. Yeah, no, he's going to miss. I think this weekend he's going to mess with their heads even more. Not our heads, we're talking the opposition to come.
Yeah.
All of them. Talking about the locks, let's not forget about Peter Step the toy as well. I mean, right. that machine of a human being, he's another option. So now if I'm sitting there and I'm trying to analyze the Springboks and I go, well, where do I shut them down? Like some said, they be throwing a lot of ball to the back. And that could come from Tony Brown, who's running the attack. Because as a backline player, we love back ball. It takes all their loosies out of play, puts us on the front foot immediately. And as you saw the weekend, I think we scored quite a few tries from first phase.
First phase ball, off the top,
and we
quick
ball.
ball.
Wide, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Simple. It's simple rugby, you know what I mean? So that brings me back to what I said earlier. You got Rassie. Everybody expects something from the Springboks every game. But sometimes he's just messing with your mind and we're playing simple rugby. But because you were expecting that line out set up in the midfield over there, you're thinking, how are we going to defend this? And then we're not going to throw it at you. We're just going to let it simmer there. We're going to leave you there, leave you with that thought. So I think he's using these 3 games just to mess with everybody else's heads. I remember the story when he used to, at captain's practice when he was at the Free State, and he used to write down all these line-out moves, and Scalp Brits tells a story where you find a piece of paper in the changing room at captain's practice, and you go, oh, here's all their line-outs. In the meantime, he planted all their line-outs and that piece of paper in the opposition changing room. And you think, okay, well, I'm good here. I've got all their calls. In the meantime, come Saturday and it's completely different.
Yeah, no, he does like to play those games as well. But Georgia does present a great opportunity. All new front row against Georgia. So it's going to be a pretty stern test for any new player coming onto the field. And you had a little conspiracy theory, maybe some simmering around about what he might do with the props he's now got at his disposal. And considering that one of those guys can play it too and a prop.
So when I'll start with the old debutant front row. So Marnus van der Merwe has played a little bit with Neutling for sure, which was against the Barbarians. Obviously, that wasn't a test. And it was kind of like also an unfair time for them to come on because it was at the time of the experiment. I think, they had Andre Esterhuizen as a flank who probably hadn't scrummed in a live match off that level at flank. So that's why maybe the box scrum was a bit shaky at the time. So now they're coming on with a Boan Venter, and it's actually, this is a low-key baptism of fire simply because if you look at the Georgians, they might be limited in certain aspects of their play, but the one thing they probably won't be limited at is at scrum time because obviously they're wrestlers, which basically means they front rowers do know how to scrum. And so, that's kind of like, it's a risk that they're taking, and a risk obviously they feel like they can fix, they can somebody on in the 30th minute, like they did with Ox for Thomas Tutoy in Gqeberha, or, just basically get them to come on in this half and, and fix things. I think that's the thinking there. But in terms of my conspiracy theory, when you look at guys like Jan-Hendrik Wessels, who plays number 1 and number 2, he plays loosehead and hooker, and then you look at how they're trying to keep that swing prop thing going. I reckon that not long from now, the Boks are going to be, it's probably not this year, probably in a year or two, the Boks are going to be in a position to put Jan-Hendrik Wessels as a 16, put him down as a 16 on the bench. But what happens next is he's a 16 and a 17. And then the guy who actually plays, has a 17 jersey on the bench is probably a swing prop, which means in 2 players, you've basically got the entire cover for the front row. And what they're then going to do is they're going to go with 2 locks, and then they're going to go with an entire loose trio. And then your player 23 probably is Andre Esterhuizen, which gives you either a backline player or an 8-0 split. So I think that's how the Boks are actually going to try and sort of maneuver this whole thing. That's my conspiracy theory about, this is what they're thinking when they're going in this direction. But, we'll see how it works. One of the things I've learned in the last 7 years of Rassie Erasmus and the Springboks is that you do not second guess him, because chances are you're going to be wrong.
Yeah, no, hundreds. Connie, Grant Williams, is he the guy at 9? Because everybody's seemingly looking for a hero.
I am a big fan of Grant. Anybody that, and I'm talking as a fullback. So when I've got a 9 or a 10 that can break from the base of the scrum or take the back line on, it's going to automatically create more space for me out wide, because you got to keep your eyes on these guys. But if I'm looking at this team sheet over here, look at those guys on the replacements bench. that is proper. I think the bomb squad has taken a bit of a beating, especially the first test. We get that out the way. But besides everybody else, if we talk about the first, the scrumming and the lineouts, I think this bomb squad has got a point to prove. They haven't been firing properly, but that is a power unit.
Looking at Georgia, obviously we're not expecting too much from them, except maybe for that battle up front. Should we be disappointed if the Boks don't put on a massive score, if they don't put 60 points onto the board? Or do you think fans have an understanding now, looking at Rassie and all of the changes and new faces, that there's a little bit more at play than just what we see on the scoreboard this Saturday?
Let's go back to what Rassie said in the beginning of this whole international series, when he said he's probably looking at playing 45 to 50 players throughout the whole incoming series. So I think he's probably over and above 45 right now. I think the biggest thing is once again, same like Italy, if you put 100 points on the Georgians, I don't see them scoring a point, first of all. I think it'll be another shutout. They might get 3 or 6 points, and that's because we made an error and they kicked that post and they got a penalty or something like that. But they're not going to come up with something fantastic that's going to beat us, and we're going to go like, oh, okay, that really tested us. In terms of the front row, you got these 3 guys. I'll tell you a story about the Georgians. So I coached a bit in Russia last year, and I had a few Georgians in my team.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a full go at the backs for knocking on and dropping balls. And then one of the Georgian props came to me and he said, Coach, don't worry. I like scrumming. That's what we do. We Georgian, we scrum. So I went, okay. So yeah, you can expect a baptism of fire from the Georgians, especially to the newcomers in the front row.
Yeah, Sim, for you, what type of results should we expect?
Look, I think the interesting thing about this current Boks team is they basically, I mean, Conrad's already alluded to the fact that they've tried to play, all of the players. They've tried to play all of the players that were in the extended squad, which was 46. ironically, the one guy, I mean, they played everyone in the 4 matches. They will have played everyone by the end of the 4 matches. But the one guy who won't have had a test is actually Jean-Luc Dupré, because he played only in the Barbarian game. So pretty much everyone will have had a taste of, international rugby, except, well, when I say international, I mean tests in particular, except for him. So I think what they're trying to do, is what the Boks are trying to do is they're trying to move sort of like the pieces on the chessboard and getting exactly the same reaction on the players, which for me is an ambitious undertaking, simply because, I mean, to change the team, like I think a Bok team, basically, a typical changes for the Bok team is about 10 or 11 in a starting lineup since the international season began. That's a lot by anyone's standards. But what they're doing is they're making those changes, and they're telling the guys that the expectation is that there's no discernible drop off. And I think that, that's just insane to attempt, because it's just so ambitious.
Connie, last one before we wrap up with the Springbok team. I've got to ask you, just as a fullback, and we spoke about Villy, or touched on him getting to his 100th, and obviously the eye is to the future. Aphelele Fassi gets a run, the weekend special. Good boy, good player. Love the way he finishes. He operated on the wing for a couple of years. I mean, you played on the wing a couple of times as well, and I love a fullback who's not scared to finish. Twice. Yeah, in test matches, brother. I mean, come on.
Only twice. Only twice.
Yeah.
Not every black
I know
player
you
plays wing.
No. Every black player plays wing. They just don't know when it's gonna come.
Yeah.
But look at Aphelele. I love the man. Damien, we know he can properly operate there. Are those the two guys going forward? Is there somebody else maybe that is not getting a chance right now? That is one for the future.
No. I think I'd probably say Damien's in the driver's seat right now. I think he's also short of some game time. Remember, he had the ban from the Stormers in the URC, and then coming in, I think Loftus was his first game in a couple of weeks. So
yeah, it was.
Yeah, he'd probably have to. I think Damien's the go-to guy right now. Aphelele, I just gotta admire him for what he's done in terms of going away, working on his game, coming back in, and he was a completely different player. So and don't forget, you had Sasha coming on at fullback as well now the weekend.
Yeah.
So now we've got 3 fullbacks, and going back to when I worked with Rassie, I remember his whole mindset, his whole thinking was that he needs 3 top players in each and every position. And if you just look at his squads throughout the years, he's probably achieved that, and he's done really well in going about that. Yeah, when it comes to fullback play, I would probably still go with Damien, just because he's probably the man in the driver's seat right now.
Well, I mean, I think we're gonna call it there, and sure, we're fighting technology. Rassie seems to be fighting all of world rugby. The British and Irish Lions are going to be fighting the Wallabies. Final thoughts, Connie? Is it straightforward? Is it as straightforward as it looks? Because at the moment, it looks like British and Irish Lions 3-0. Thanks for coming. Cheers, Australia. We know how the Wallabies have struggled. Or is that just the way it looks from a distance?
In all honesty, I really don't give a damn. I don't care about all of them and the Lions and the Aussies and the All Blacks playing the French. I don't really care about them, I'm a proud South African. Right now we are top of the world. But if I have to pass a comment, I think just from going on what the Aussies have done the last couple of years, they'd be lucky if they get a 2-1 drubbing, but I think it'll be a 3-0.
Yeah, no, it's not looking good there at the moment. I'm going to throw this one to you, Sim. I see we got you back. British and Irish Lions. This looks like it's going to be one-way traffic.
Yeah, look, just looking at the team, I can't see how the Aussies pull it off. I mean, they've lost, over the last 2 to 3 weeks, they've lost probably 3 of their key players. Rob Valentini, Will Skelton, guys like that you need in your pack. And then they've lost their best flyer in Noah Lolesio. I know they've got Tom Liner, who's Michael Liner's son, becomes the first Aussie, I think, to father and son combo. That's nice. It's a nice history for the family. But you sit and you kind of ask yourself the question, can they deal with like 8 Ireland players in the starting lineup? I don't know, 4 England players and, a few Scots. And I just don't see it. You have to look at the British and Irish Lions and go, they're playing in Australia. Australia are still a proud rugby nation. They've won more than 1 World Cup. I think they've won 2. So, they're a proper rugby country, but they also haven't been for a while. So, yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. It's going to be a tricky one when you look at, when you look at just
don't sit on the fence. Just like they're going to get a hiding.
Yeah. One-way traffic.
Okay, 2-1. Okay, 2-1 to the Lions. I'm actually giving the Aussies a...
Sure, you're giving them 1. Yes. Yeah. It could happen. Anything can happen. Look, we're going to call it there. It's been phenomenal catching up with you, Connie. I really hope we get a chance to do this again. It's great seeing you on the telly as well. For anyone who is watching this, how often are you on? Where can they find you?
Oh, so we got a show every Sunday night on SABC Sports. Final analysis at 8 p.m. SABC Sports, where we talk sport in general. We just have a blast. We have some fun. It's that time of the evening where the kids are watching the 8 o'clock movie, or the others have gone to bed already. So we're allowed to express ourselves.
Yeah. I like that. And I can't see you doing anything else other than expressing yourself, my brother. Thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to see you again. And let's do this whiskey in person.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot. Cheers, man. Cheers,
Cuddy. Yeah, I think we're going to definitely do that. Sim, I'm off to Bombela this Saturday. I didn't think I was going to go and watch Georgia. They had to drop the ticket prices. I mean, we went on about ticket prices last week. They had to drop the ticket prices because the place was only 70% full. And that's another conversation for another day. It's already got a Springbok coach fired and people talking and complaining. But certainly is worth a look at. I don't know what the alternative is because they say rugby has to survive financially as well in a very, very tough era in which to do it, given the strength of the rand. But I think maybe we should save that for that break between now and the Rugby Chaps.
Yep.
I'm going to call it right there and wrap it up for the night. Thanks again to Connie. Thanks again to Sim. Good luck to the Boks against Georgia. I don't know if they need any luck, or good luck to the Georgians, I suppose. And I say this as a Springbok fan. Against the Springboks. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll do it again next week. Cheers. Hey guys, if you like what you see and you want to support the show, we want you to be part of that Rugby Union Show family. Then just hit the like button, subscribe to the show, tell your friends, make sure you join us every time we're on. Slap that bell harder than Rassie Erasmus loopholes in World Rugby's rulebook. There are new episodes every week. Don't miss it. Rugby Union Show. What a week it's been.
He's playing like a man possessed.
And so much to talk about. It's not this rugby union show.
It's that rugby union show.